Okay, now we're ready to get started. All right, somebody read that for us. Go ahead, read it nice and loud.
I can use measurements to model the decomposition of one whole into two.
Okay, so like first of all, I was telling you the modules we've done. We've done module 1, module 3 because we jumped over 2. Then we went to 5 because we jumped over 4. Now we're going to module 6. Okay. Well, that module 2, I believe it is, that we jumped over, and we're saving it to the end. The only bad thing about doing that, and I know why I'm doing it, I know why we did it, and I agree with why we did it, but this module talks about that other module a lot, okay? So when you see things about measurement, we haven't done the measurement module. We jumped over it, and for good reason. But I hate that this module kind of brings it up like we've already had it. Like they kind of think we already know all this stuff. Okay, so there's going to be times that I just kind of adjust it a little bit because of that. Or you might see a picture of something that uses measurement in the workbook. We'll talk about it. I know you haven't had it. Don't worry about it. It's coming. Okay, and we're going to be fine without it. But I just wanted to explain that. Yeah.
We did it in third grade a little bit.
Well, see, that right there is going to help. Let me ask you this, since you brought that up. In third grade, did you talk about how there's the standard system and the metric system, the two different systems? Did y'all talk about metric system at all, like centimeters, meters?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about them a little bit, but not so much that you don't know what's going on. Plus, you've heard about them a little bit in third grade, so that helps. Okay, so when we get to one of those points, I might kind of feel you out and just see, what y'all remember and what and all. But I didn't want you to be too concerned if you start seeing these things about measurement and it's like, whoa, we don't, hold on, we don't know about that. And I mean, I know what you know. I know that you know what it means to measure something, but you know what I mean, all those details about it. Okay. Also, look at this word right here at the very end. Tenths. Well, that sounds pretty like what we've just been doing. Okay. There's a really good reason. Yeah. There's a really good reason that this module has come after fractions. Okay. And I kind of said that yesterday too, that fractions takes us right into decimals because fractions and decimals are very closely related. Okay?
They're very easy.
Well, you know what? You know how well we've done with fractions? And at first, I don't think everybody was real comfortable with fractions, and then we've gotten to where we know, I think that's how we're going to feel about decimals. At first, it's kind of like, what? And then it's, oh, no problem, no big deal. I really think we're going to get there, okay? But part of what you know about fractions is definitely going to help you with decimals, okay? All right, so we're just starting off slow here, making sure we understand what everything is. We're going to jump to, after all the review, to this right here, okay? There's a lot on this slide, and for right now, I just want you to look at this side. Don't even worry about all this, okay? A lot of what we're doing today is making sure we understand what is a decimal. When she's saying that word decimal, what are we talking about? Okay, we just want to get real comfortable with what that is, because once you start kind of understanding what a decimal is, a lot of what we do with that decimal makes a whole lot more sense. Okay. All right, so what this is supposed to be is a scale measuring bags of rice. Okay, the rice before it's been cooked, it's kind of hard. You ever felt rice before it's been cooked? Okay. And they've put it in little bags. And this was kind of hard to show on here, I guess, because some of those bags look like they're floating in the air and not sitting on the scale, but we're going to pretend that they're all sitting on the scale. Okay. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 bags, and these 10 bags together equal 1 kilogram. That's what that says. Now, when you talked about measurement, did you talk about kilograms?
I think we did.
I know you probably are. I know you're familiar with pounds.
We did stuff.
Okay. I know that like Miss Sarah and them, they have scales because we've had to borrow them before. Did you talk about pounds and how many pounds something weighs?
Yeah.
And sometimes you back that up into ounces, which are smaller than pounds. Okay. So did you also talk about kilograms?
We did, but we didn't
A little
really
bit.
get real into it.
But you kind of know that that's a weight measurement. Okay. All right. So this is a digital scale, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. But that's a 1 right there. Now you see that little dot? That's coming. That's what we're going to be talking about. There's a reason that's there. But really, because that's 0.0, we can just say it's 1 kilogram. We don't have to say it's 1.0 kilograms. You could, but because it's 0, we don't always have to say that one, okay? All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to draw something in just a second on our board. And we're going to use it for a while. So don't up and erase it unless I tell you to, okay? Because you're going to need it for a while. We're going to start with a tape diagram, and we're going to let this tape diagram go all the way across our board. I'm trying to think how you need to place it on here. If you would put it kind of think of your board as in like 2 halves, okay? Put it up in the top half, because we're going to be putting something later on in the bottom half. Okay, so we're going to draw a tape diagram. I'm going to do that with you. Well, actually, I've got one here. Because I'm going to go ahead and use this one today. Let it go all the way across, and I just want it to be big enough. But in a little while, let me tell you what's coming. In a little while, we're going to put a number line under it. So just know you need space for that. Okay? You need space for that. Where's your board? Okay, we'll get your board out, because we're going to need that. Okay. Borrow that for today. Alright, don't draw a number line now, just a tape diagram. Yeah. Something like this, totally fine. But you want it large enough. I'd go ahead and I'd stretch it across, because we're going to be putting things in there. So if you've made it smaller than it, like shorter than this, go ahead and let it stretch across. Okay, no, that's fine. That size is fine. You draw it right back. But I would go ahead and let it stretch across, because just so it's big enough to see everything, and we have enough space to write everything that we need to write today. I know this one looks rather small compared to what I normally draw, but I'm going to use this just because it's already here. Okay. Now, if I were to ask you, how can we show on our tape diagram the 10 bags of rice? Nobody's going to be drawing a bag shape.
Just draw circles.
Nobody's going to be drawing little, well, if we have a tape diagram, a tape diagram really only gets drawn on one way, doesn't it?
You just write 10s.
Well, what would we need to do to show that it's showing us 10? We cut it how many times? So, I can't hear you.
10 times.
Well, 9 times, but so that we have 10 pieces of it. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to take our tape diagram, and we're going to cut it so that it has 10 pieces. And we're going to try to get them close to the same size, but that would be 9 cuts. But if I were you, just like I did on mine, go back and count and make sure you've got 10 pieces total. Okay? 10 pieces total. So hold on. Yeah, you might want to make it just a little bit bigger. Okay? Now the bracket up here does say 1 whole, and I would go ahead and at the top of my tape diagram, I would make that little bracket that says, it stretches from here to here, and put 1 right there, because that's another important idea in this. We need to know that our whole amount, in this case, and our whole amount when it comes to decimals is 1 whole, and that it's cut into 10 pieces. Okay? All right. Now, if I were going to write a fraction to show these pieces, okay, if I only had one bag of rice, let's say I had one bag of rice and I came over and laid it on Charlotte's desk, what fraction of the whole does Charlotte have? I just said fraction, nothing scary there. There's 10 bags. I grab one, I put it on her desk. What fraction does she have now? Yeah. 1/10. She has 1/10. So we're going to label that. Okay. Mine is already labeled and it's really tiny. You're going to have to write small too, but we're going to write the fraction 1/10 under that first section. Now they labeled all the way with the kilogram. Don't worry about the kilogram right now. Just put 1/10. Again, our focus is not the measurement part right now. Okay. So if one bag of rice is 1/10, and one box on our tape diagram is 1/10, isn't every box on our tape diagram 1/10? Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and label all of these. Okay. This is 1/10. This is 1/10. 1/10. Each of these are 1/10.
So they're unit fractions.
Yeah, I like how you use that fourth grade idea there. These are unit fractions right now. You might even be sitting there going, does she realize we've already talked about this in fractions? This is really easy. So if you're having that thought, that's okay. Remember, we start simple. We always start simple.
And then we go home.
And then we get, well, harder. You know, I don't know if it's always, sometimes we think of the word hard as I can't do it. But we do add more to it, don't we? Okay? All right. So, the thing I don't like about this is I'm fixing to lose my tape diagram. I may just have to draw it back and forth. That's okay. All right. So, I guess I got ahead of myself. Sometimes I get ahead of where the board is, and that's okay. But this is what we were just talking about. That one bag of rice is the same as 1/10. Okay, I think we understand that idea. So, here we go. Here's my question for you. If one bag of rice is the same as 1/10, okay, then what would the fraction be if I had 2 bags of rice? Okay, yeah, 2/10. Then this would show me 2/10 right here. Okay, it's really nothing for you to, I was trying to erase one thing and erase it all. There's really nothing for you to add at this moment, okay? We're just talking through this. I need to make sure that you are following along with me, okay? All right. So 3 bags of rice would be 3 bags of rice would be 3/10, and 4 bags of rice would be 4/10, and 5 would be, and 6 would be, and 7 would be, and 8.
1 whole.
Oh, I love how you said that. You didn't go to 10/10. You might have, but a lot of you said 1 whole. Okay. All right, so we're done. Problem set. No, I'm kidding. Pretty simple lesson. No, a little bit more to it, but not too bad. Okay. Now we get the idea that 10/10 makes 1 whole, right? If you get that idea, that right there is going to help you with decimals. Okay. Let me say this before we keep going. Decimals and fractions are the same thing. This is why. We have fractions. Remember how fractions are just. Say that one more time. They're pieces that are smaller than 1 whole, right? Because if I took this is not 1 whole pizza anymore. It's just a little piece of it. It's smaller than the 1 whole. Okay. decimal pieces are smaller than one whole. Okay? I'm going to use this just for a second. I'm going to use this a lot of times while we talk about decimals, but maybe I'm trying to show you this in a number of ways that maybe will reach different folks. This is our decimal right here. Now, this is a really large number, okay? But I could just have the number 1 up here and a decimal. But see, what's on the right-hand side of the decimal? This is smaller than 1. Okay? You see how this is the ones place? And we get a little bigger as we go this way to the tens place. Tens, not tenths. These are very, very different. Think about 1/10 as a fraction and 10, the whole number. Aren't they very different? So are these. We get a little bigger with hundreds. We get even bigger with thousands, and so on. We keep getting bigger. Well, guys, if I start here and I go this way, I'm getting smaller, aren't I? Smaller. We get down to the ones place, and we think we're as small as we can get. I can go smaller than 1 because I can break those whole numbers into pieces. These are smaller than these, okay? So tenths are smaller than ones. Hundredths are even smaller than tenths. And thousandths, I have to make sure you see me say it that way so that you don't think that I'm saying this down here, see? Why they didn't call this something different, I don't know. Like monkeys, apples, kangaroos. It's something besides something that sounds almost like these other words. But anyway, tenths, hundredths, and thousandths, all smaller than 1. And this is what's even crazier, okay? Thousands over here is bigger than hundreds. But thousandths over here, smaller than the hundredths. Okay? So as we go this way, we get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, really and truly, in 4th grade, we're going to stop right about here. Okay? We're going to go to these 2 places. Just because we're just getting comfortable with decimals. When you get into 5th and 6th grade, you'll do more with it. You'll understand what they are, so you're ready to do more with them. Okay? But we just want to get a really good understanding. We are going to do some adding and subtracting with them. But you're going to find that's one of the easiest things we do in 4th grade. So don't let decimals bother you. Does it look all fancy and important to have that decimal? Yeah, but okay. All right. So, I think we're ready for this. Okay, what I want you to do, okay, listen to all my directions before you just start drawing. Okay. You know how underneath your tape diagram you put like 1/10, 1/10, 1/10? Could you erase just those fractions and leave your tape diagram? So I think those are going to bump into what we're about to do. So leave your tape diagram, just erase the fractions if you have those underneath.
Oh.
All right, let me switch over because this is nice and all, but it's just too small. Oh, lovely.
Wendy, since when did you become a reading teacher?
I'm really not the reading teacher, I'm the trash man.
That's a new one.
I gotta throw away every day, which is fine.
Yeah, when did you become a trash man?
I don't know.
Janitors, the new janitor.
Yeah, hey, that's fine with me. Okay. Here is our tape diagram. Just give me a second to get caught up with you. You already have this. Okay. All right, now, okay, hold on before you start drawing. Get all your information. We're going to put a number line right underneath. We want it to be the same, same size. So like my line that has my 0 is going to be right at the end of my tape diagram. And I'll put my arrow there in just a minute. And my line that matches up right here is going to be where I have 1. Okay, and I'm going to match up these lines. Does that make sense? I'm fixing to cut this into the 10 pieces also. Same 10 pieces are right here, so I want my lines to be at the same spot. So, as close as I can get it, go ahead and start your number line. And I just want them to match as best as possible. It's just going to help me understand and you understand and what we're doing here. Okay, your number line. Try to make it the same size so you're remember for the end of it, remember for the beginning of it. You want them to be right underneath. Okay. Now I'm just doing a few extra things to get caught up with where you are. This was a 1 hole. I think we're good right there. All right, we don't need a labeling thing just yet. That's coming. Okay. Now, like I said, we're going back to some things that feel like we're going back to the beginning of fractions, but this is just to help create that understanding of what we're doing and what decimals are. I want you to know what it is. All right, so let me have your eyes. We don't want that to take us too terribly long. Okay. Just like this tape diagram is 1 hole, notice that on our number line, we're from 0 to 1 hole, okay? 1 whole number right here. Okay, now you notice that our 1 hole is cut into smaller pieces because fractions and decimals are smaller than 1, okay? All right, so you told me a minute ago that this was 1/10, right? Let's put some labeling on our number line, but we're going to do some labeling at the top of our number line and at the bottom of our number line. At the top of our number line, it's really going to go with our tape diagram also. So we know that this is 0/10 right here. Okay? Because we don't have any at that point. We know that this is 1/10. We know this is 2/10. This is very familiar to us. And you can keep going all the way down the number line. But notice that label is matching up to your tape diagram too. Let me find a picture I want you to see. Okay, so when you get that much, just put the top on your marker and lay it down for a second. All right, if you don't have that, get done. Okay, we need to be done with that. Okie doke. Now I want you to see this picture. I'm going to go back and forth between some of our slides, just because some of this stuff is helpful to see. If we had this picture in front of us, if we actually had the actual scale, and we tried that one year with the digital scales, and you might remember this about those digital scales that Miss Sarah and Miss Danielle have. They're very, very sensitive. Like if you sneeze wrong, it changes the number on it almost, and you have to get the settings just right for it to measure like you need it to, or to measure what we call accurately, so that it has the right measurement on it. Anyway, so right now a picture is better for this. If we had 1 bag of rice, and if it was actually on the scale, touching it, not hovering above it, this is how much it would weigh. Okay, now that's a digital scale. What does that say?
0.1 kg.
0 point what?
1 kg.
Okay. So what you're saying is 0.1 kilogram? Anybody disagree with that? You think it's something different? All right, so that is how you read that. 0.1, and that is kilogram. No matter what the measurement, what's the word I'm looking for? No matter what the unit is, it's 0.1. Okay. All right, so I want to show you something on your tape diagram and number line picture. So let me go back here. Okay. So right here, I'm going to just change my color. 0.1. Okay, would you please write that underneath the very first tick mark past 0? Don't write any more, just that. Okay, 0.1. So, well, let me actually start here. 1/10, and you don't have to write this, I just want you to see it, is equal to 1/10 is also equal to 0.1, but 0.1 has two names. We say 0.1 when we have that little dot. We don't call it a period like in English or reading class. We don't call it a dot, even though it is a dot. We say point. So that is 0.1, but it is also called a tenth. So this right here has two names. It's called 1/10, and it's called 0.1. Well, hold on. I thought 1/10 was just this fraction thing. Well, it is. 1/10 here and 1/10 here are equal to each other. You can even see that with the tape diagram and the number line. That's why we lined it up. But let's run over here. Okay. What does that say?
Tenths.
What does that say?
Tenths.
Tenths. Ah. So when we have a 1 sitting in this place value place, this parking place, it is in the tenths place. So when you're in the very first spot to the right of that decimal, you're in the tenths place. So that is 1/10. Okay? So if this is 1/10 and this is 1/10, those fraction tenths that we already know about are going to become helpful to us, okay, in figuring out decimals. All right, let's keep labeling. So if this is 1/10, what do you think right next door is going to be?
2/10.
2/10. And let your fraction friends help you, okay? All right, so this is 0.2. What would be next door to 0.2? Yeah. 0.3, and let's just keep going. 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. How do we write it when we get to the 1 whole?
1.
How do we write it? 1.0. Okay. Did you know that every whole number actually has that decimal place there? You just don't see it. You just don't have to write it. Like, random number. Brandon, you just had a birthday in January. How old are you?
10.
Okay. Brandon is 10. Some of the rest of you are too. All right. We know that as the number 10. But number 10, like any number, has a decimal sitting right there. We just don't have to write it because there's no fraction or decimal pieces there. Okay? So 10 and 10.0, same thing. They're equal to each other. Okay? So this and this, same thing. So if you're wondering why all of a sudden now this one hole has a 0.0 beside it, now it looks all fancy right here, it's always been there. We just don't really write it when it's 0, okay? But let me tell you when we write it. In a few more months, Brandon, you're going to be a little bit older. And maybe we're not worried about it as much now, but I guarantee you liked to say this when you were a little bit younger. When you get about 6 months down the line, you don't want to say you're 10 anymore because you want to be
10 and a half.
I'm 10 and a half, okay, or 10.5.
I told my mom I'm 10. I'm not
Okay.
10
0.5 is going to become very familiar to us because look where it lands. Right at halfway. So if you hear somebody, oh, it was something 0.5, they really mean right at that halfway point. Okay, because it's 5 of those tenths. 5 tenths. Oh yeah, 5 tenths is 1/2. Okay. All right. Now, this is the nice thing about decimals. Remember in fractions how, like, every time we had a new problem or a new situation, we had to pay attention to what the denominator was. We had to make sure we knew what it was, and it might be eighths, it might be fourths, thirds, sixths. We didn't know.
because of the denominator.
In decimals, well, it's very helpful for a lot of things. In decimals, you're going to have one denominator. Well, I take that back. You're going to have a few more than one, but you're only going to have a small handful of them. What is our decimal, or what is our denominator every time? Every time we have a decimal in this place, let me say, then we'll have one denominator. It's tenths.
10.
Well, why is she talking about denominator if we're doing decimals? Because they work hand in hand together. These are tenths. When we move to the second place out here, we'll have some hundredths. Okay. You're going to be asked a lot of times, hey, write the answer for this in decimal form. Write the answer for this in fraction form. It's going to go back and forth. But if it goes back to fraction form, that's what I'm saying. If it goes back to fraction form, you're usually either going to have tenths, turn around please, or hundredths. And that's it. Okay? And we'll see that. We'll see that as we move along. Okie doke. We've labeled our tape diagram and our number line. We've done that. See, we're just moving along. Okay. So, let me ask you a question. I'm just going to, I don't want to get rid of this, but I'm going to need some space, so I'm going to, how about that? I think we can still see it. Okay. Let's come over here. All right, so what if we have our little bag of rice here? Okay, I don't know.
That looks like
Yeah, it looks like a science thing. That's okay. And
they just look like
look, this is rice. Okay. And how many bags of rice, well, we know it's 3 bags of rice, how much would that weigh? If I put it on the scale, because we know each of those is a tenth, what would it weigh? You know the answer, and you can see it in your head, but are you having trouble knowing how to say it? Yeah. Okay. We're going to have that trouble for a little while, because we're getting used to this. All right, look at your number line. You know what it looks like. All right, go up and find the fraction. Go straight up from it. What's the fraction say? That's the other thing I like. The fractions help you know how to say these. And the decimals help you know how to say the fractions. Help them out. It's 3, not 3.0, but 0.3. Okay? So we could say this is 0.3, or what's the other name for it?
3 tenths.
3 tenths.
3 tenths.
See? It's 3 tenths. It's also 0.3. Okay. Well, what if we had that much, and then somebody came along and gave us 2 more 2 more bags. Now use your number line. We know how to jump down the number line. If you start at 0.3 and then you jump down 2 more, where are you at? Where are you? Yeah.
0.5.
Yeah, if we, got handed 2 more rice bags, and this was 0.2, all right, all together we're going to have, okay, because that looks really difficult, doesn't it? It's just a preview of things to come, dun dun dun, okay?
We just makes it
What's easy? It just looks like 3 plus 2.
It's because it's just.
All right, I have another question for you. Here we go. Let's use our thinker. Let's use our diagrams in front of us because that's going to help you. If I had this much, if I had 0.7, so I have 7 bags of rice now, and I wanted to get to 1.0, and I wanted to know how many more bags I needed because I need 1.0. And I've got 7 already, and I need to know, okay, well, I've got this much. How much more do I need to get to where I want to be? Martin, what would I need? 0.3. Okay. And so that's just, if I'm starting here at 0.7 and I want to get to here, how much more do I need to get there? Okay. If it is helpful to you to leave this on your whiteboard, push it to the corner, but have it to look at while we do our problem set, you're welcome to do that because this is a really helpful tool you have in front of you that you've created. What would you want to say?
I have another way.
Okay.
You just take this round point and just look at 7 3.
Okay. And the more we do with decimals, you're going to start seeing things like that that are helpful. Charlotte, what do you want to add?
Easier than I thought it was.
Yeah. It's scary because it sounds like this big, important, hard to understand thing. It's not. Once you understand what it really, really is, it's not. Is it going to be a little more difficult times than at other times? Sure. But really and truly, this is not so bad. Okay? All right. So leave what's on your board. I know that it feels like we're about to be done. We're not. We're fixing to do a little activity that I hope will create even more understanding for you. Okay? I need to give you those directions, so if you will just sit tight for a second and let me explain what we're about to do. You need to grab a handful of things out of here. No, we are not sword fighting.
Aww.
And we're not playing Star Wars.
Aww.
Yeah, I know. Ah! Where'd it go?
I want to.
Well, I do too, but this is not gonna. And actually, I think I grabbed a few of them. Are these? Okay.
I'm gonna take your leg off and let you
You know what?
I'll cut your head.
There are 2 different kinds of these. I think they've gotten
Cut
mixed
your arms
together.
off each side.
And I don't want those. I don't want anybody to have those. I don't know how that happened. When I hand these out, I'll make sure you have the right one. There's a few of these that are not right for this activity. If you know, last year, did you talk about yards and meters at all?
Yes.
So you know what a yard is? You know what a meter is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the thing about yards and meters and some of our other measurements is they are very close, but they're not exactly the same. A yard is 3 feet. A meter is almost that much, but it's slightly different. And some of these are right at a yard, and some of these are right at a meter. And we need the ones today that are a meter. Okay. Yes, they are both right about, they're about the size of a baseball bat, or they're about the size of up from the floor to the doorknob, you know, but they are different, and so I got to make sure you got the right one. Okay. So no, I was not trying to create myself a blonde wig, even though that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
These paper strips should be 1 meter long, give or take some microscopically small spaces. But they are.
This is what happens when
This is 1 meter. This is what happens. What?
we leave you alone.
Yes, I get creative with whatever's around. Okay. So like I said, there might be a slight overhang, but those should be right at 1 meter. Okay. Now, what's nice about 1 meter and about centimeters, and centimeters are the little pieces that are on here. Millimeters are the little itty bitties that are on there. Okay. So we've got millimeter, we've got centimeter,
An inch.
and then we've got, now inches are a whole different system, even though we know what an inch is. That's what gets confusing. There's 2 different systems. There's the metric system, and then there's the customary system. Inches go with customary. So right now we're not talking about that. Millimeters, centimeters. Here's the clue. It has meter at the end of it. The millimeter, centimeter, the meter. Then there's decameter. There's all kinds of other. Kilometer has the word meter at the end of it. Okay. This is what's nice when we're talking about decimals. In decimals, there are 10 pieces with tenths inside of one whole, okay? There are 10 sections here that we're going to work with. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So we can cut 100 into 10 pieces easily. So what you're going to do, let me get to that. I am going to put you with somebody and you're going to share this, and this is how. I wish I had a table right here. Maybe this will work. Okay. So in a minute, both of you, everybody will have their own paper strip. Okay. This one had a little chunk cut out of it, so that was mine. You are going to put it beside, you probably want to do this on the floor, would be the easiest way to do this so it's not hanging off of the table because it's long. Lay it right beside the meter stick. Okay, you see how I've got it laid beside it? Now, it has 2 sides, so the other person can put theirs on the other side. So you can both do this at the same time and do not have to wait on each other. See what I mean? But one of you can put it on this side, on the right, and one can put it on the left. Now, look at the meter stick. Look closely. Now be careful. It does have an inches side. Stay away from the inches side. The side that you want is counting by tens all the way to 100, except that it just left the number 100 off. So it says 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, but 90 is here, and you can see it's got the other 10. It just does not have the number 100. Got me? What you're going to do is lay this beside it. I think I could do this if I hung it up. Let's do that. Alright, so just pretend for a second I'm on the floor, that I've taken my table or my floor and I've put it here. Okay. So I'm going to lay my paper strip beside this so that it matches up. So the end is right here and the end is down here by the end. Okay, y'all got me? This is probably in the way now, isn't it? Let's look that. Okay. I need everything to behave and cooperate. Would you please just take that and move it over because I'm going to have a mess if I don't. Thank you. Alright, y'all see what I've done? I've made sure my paper strip is all lined up. And what I'm going to do, can y'all see, or am I in the way? You can't see, or I'm not in the way? I'm not in the way? That's amazing then. Okay. So I'm going to mark everywhere every multiple of 10 is. Okay? I want my piece of paper to be cut into 10 pieces. So every time I get to, like when I get to 10, I'm going to make a little mark with my pencil. When I get to 20, I'm going to make a mark with my pencil. When I get to 30, I'm going to make a mark with my pencil. Y'all see that? At 10, 20, 30, 40, that's where you're marking it. Okay. At 40, I'm going to mark it. At 50, at 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay. And that's all I'm doing. Now if my lines didn't get drawn very good, I'm going to go back over them and draw them all the way from end to end. But now, because I use that meter stick, my pieces are very close to being exactly the same size. You see that? Okay. Once you do that, I'm going to have you go back to your seat. I'll have you do one more thing with the paper strip. Okay. And then I'm going to hold on to these because these paper strips are going to help us at least for one more lesson. Okay, so nothing hard that I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to use this big old meter stick to help you divide that long piece of paper into 10 equal pieces. Okay, so you're going to need your pencil. Okay, you're going to do this with your pencil so that in case something moves or doesn't cooperate, you can fix it. Okay. All right. You're going to need some floor, so you're going to need to spread out. Now, if Gage is my partner, do I have to wait until Gage is completely done? No, he can put his paper strip on his side, and I can get on the other side of the meter stick and put my paper strip right beside it, and I can mark where I need to mark. Okay? All right, so I'm going to ask you to... It was a few days ago. What were we doing when we were working with partner? Not the bottle flip thing. What were we doing? We used a partner a few days ago. I just can't remember what we were doing with them. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The packet.
we got the packet.
Where you were trying to figure out the clues?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Trying to figure out the words.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Actually, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're not even, so I'll have. I may let one person work by themselves simply because I can't put 3 people at one meeting. Okay. All right. So if you would pick somebody, go get with them and come to me and get the meter stick. And if you want to work by yourself, come on up and grab your meter stick.
I guess.
We're gonna work together. All right. So you're gonna use this side. Okay. All right. Y'all working together. All right. You're gonna use that side. Count by 10. Okay. Who are you working with? Okay. You're gonna use that side that's counting by 10s, and I'll kind of make sure you're working with. Now, I've already got somebody working by themselves, so everybody else needs to have a partner. Okay. Y'all are working together. Okay. So use that side that's counting by 10s. Y'all are together. That's the side you're using. Who are you working with? You don't have anybody? Can you work with Jayla? Okay. Alright guys, you're going to use this side that's counting by 10. Okay. Who's working with who?
I'm working on it.
Alright. Use this side that's counting by 10. Okay. Okay. Use this side that's counting by 10. Alright, you don't have forever, so you need to get going. I will bring around your paper strips and let you get that measured.